All right, let's take you to this story now. The African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of Children will today launch a report in Ethiopia highlighting the plight of children in Africa. The committee is the arm of the African Union that conducted a study focusing on children without parental care on the continent. Our reporter Ditaba Tsotetsi is in Ethiopia. Ditaba, a good morning to you. Tell us exactly what we're hearing from these very interesting proceedings in Ethiopia this morning.
Good morning, Naledi. An important day really for the African Union committee experts on the welfare and rights of children here in Ethiopia. They are going to launch a very comprehensive report today highlighting the plights of children on the continent. We know many children on the continent are facing a myriad of challenges, violence, sexual harassment on children, displacements, conflicts on the continent are some of the challenges that children are facing. Where we are now here in Ethiopia, on the streets, you can see that children are fending for themselves. You ask yourself, where are the children or where are the parents of these children? These children are not even attending school. So those are some of the challenges that the report will try to address. But for more on this, Naledi, we are now joined by Homotso Munso from the Child Rights Network from Southern Africa. And Homotso, thank you very much for your time. Really, indeed, a very important report that is going to be launched today. Your views on that, on these events here. Do you think this report will address the challenges the children are facing on the continent?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning to you and to your listeners. It's a very important day, primarily the launch of this report. But the report is something else. The fundamental question is, to what extent do we make political will and commitment to implement the report? We can launch the report, but if you don't put the resources that are required to implement the report, is something else. If you don't also mobilize all key stakeholders to come together to ensure that we implement the report, is something else. We believe that it takes everyone to raise a child. That's our strong belief as African. So this is not the first time to launch a report. We've launched a number of reports. The primary issue is, how do we then translate this report into a practical action, implementation, reaching out? Like what you have just said, the reality of cheering in Africa is very sad and is very discouraging. If you come here around the street, you see cheering. Some cheering are exposed to a conflict in their respective. There are some cheering who are victims of harmful traditional practices. There are cheering who are victims of child marriage. There are a number of issues. So for me, launching the report is a good thing, but we need to move from theory and go into practice to ensure that we mobilize the required resources, to ensure that we pull all the people and we move into action.
A very important call there, Mr. Homotso. But as the organizations are fighting for the rights of children, what do you do? Do you engage governments? Do you engage stakeholders? Do you engage the authorities to implement these reports? Because as you have mentioned, that this is not the first report that has been launched. Many reports have been launched. Nothing has happened. As the organizations fighting for the rights of children, what do you do?
Okay, our role as the Child Network for Southern Africa, which is the Secretary to Pan-African Civil Society Organization in Africa, is to negotiate, advocate and push the government to do what they are required to do, to ensure that they put measures into place to translate all rights for all children into a reality. So our first thing is to push for public investment in children. Without adequate resources, without budget, without money, there is nothing that we can do. So we are talking to the government to ensure that they prioritize children's issues. If you analyze the budget from different countries and you check the percentage that's allocated to children's issues, you'll be shocked, and it's very disappointing. So what we're saying is that let's make sharing visible into our budget. That's number one. The second thing, also we are working with children. Children are key stakeholders on issues that affect them. Let's hear from the children. As a parent, government must act as a parent, as fathers and mothers, and feel the pains from the voices of the children. Let's create the opportunities and space for children to raise their own issues. But most importantly, we're calling for public investment in the rights and welfare of children. Without resources, without political will and commitment from the government, there's nothing that can happen. So we're calling and urging all government, but also all stakeholders. We strongly believe as African that it takes a village to raise a child. The business, the media, the government, civil society organization, development partners, we need to come together and work for a common goal of ensuring that we build a better future. We need Africa fit for children. If we don't invest on children, Africa's future is doomed. So it's for us to work as a collective to ensure that we put the child at the center and ensuring that all our policies are child sensitive and child responsive.
Talking about the policies, Mr. Khomotso, I wanted to ask that question. Do you think African governments, do they have enough policies or correct policies in terms of protecting the rights of children?
If you look at the African context, we have what you call the African Charter on the Right and Welfare of the Child, which is a very progressive instrument that can help us to promote the children. But the challenge is that, do we all domesticate the charter? That's number one. Number two, do you put all the necessary resources? I can say across all African continent, about 80 to 90% have ratified the African Charter on the Right and Welfare of the Child. Equally, they've ratified the UN Convention on the Right and Welfare of the Child. The primary reason and the challenge is the implementation of this policy document. Translating this policy document into a reality. A policy is a theoretic framework. What is required is action, deliberate effort to put the resources, deliberate effort to act, and deliberate effort to change the situation of children. Talking, writing won't change the situation of the children unless we act and ensure that the resources are there and all the necessary actions are put into place to translate all right for all children to a reality.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Khomotso, for your time. That was Mr. Khomotso Monsonaledi from the Child Network from Southern Africa. Many organizations here are fighting for the rights of children. We'll hope that this report, after it has been launched, governments on the continent will implement some of the recommendations, if not all. We are told that only in DRC, more than 2 million children have been displaced because of conflicts. You can see that even conflicts are also playing a very negative impact on the rights of children or on the lives of children. Many children are suffering on the continent because of the conflicts, because of violence. So many organizations here, they just hope that this report this time around will bring change.
All right, that there is our reporter Ditaba Tsotetsi speaking to us from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia.